How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame and welcome to another FPL video. Today we're going to be looking at our Game Week 32 plus and onwards watch list players that we should probably be keeping our eye on for the next game or two. These are players that are going to have a high impact when they either come off the bench or potentially start the game. These are also players that are passing what we call the eye test. So basically when you're watching the game, they seem to be very involved, they seem to be very active on the pitch, and they just seem to be getting a lot of the ball. And these are players that are typically going to be nailed on with a somewhat of a low ownership. And what we mean by nailed on is basically a player that is going to be starting game in, game out, or will definitely see minutes even if they don't start, and will make an impact when they do. So without further ado, let's see what players we have lined up for this one. So the first player on our list is Gabriel Jesus. Now with Aguero obviously needing surgery or needs to go for some type of rehab or basically some type of treatment out in Spain to fix the problem that he has after he suffered it during the Burnley game. Gabriel Jesus is going to be in the starting 11 for Man City for the foreseeable future, with the exception of maybe like a Raheem Sterling false 9, potentially in games that don't really or aren't as stressful, and they can obviously give Jesus a little bit of a rest. He did have 3 shots in the 42 minutes that he played, which is less than 45 minutes, all of which were in the box, so obviously quite active. He's definitely going to be nailed on, which is obviously something that's quite good. Obviously, if you extrapolate the shots, 6 shots in a game, you can probably almost guarantee that one of those is going to go in, especially with the chances that Man City create. For someone who's played around 1,000 less minutes, than the likes of Aguero or other strikers, he has 10 goals and 6 assists, which is a very good return. The only my concern that I have is that he looked a bit scrappy with some of the chances he was taking, and his kind of build-up play isn't obviously as refined as Aguero's was, even though Aguero did look a bit sluggish because he was obviously carrying that injury for what looked to be a good portion of the first half before he came off. So it's going to be something that we're going to need to kind of look at. And also, there may be a risk that he doesn't play full 90 minutes every game, even though he is the only striker. And that's probably because Pep will want to save him because he knows that, hey, look, he's our only out-and-out striker without having to play like a weird false 9. So he could be just one that gets a lot of minutes, not necessarily the full 90 every game, but he would definitely be involved. And is probably as nailed on as maybe Ederson going forward. Nextly, we have Harry Kane. Now, Harry Kane in the West Ham game, they did win 2-0. He did score, but the eye test as well as the BPS meter for Harry Kane wasn't great. There were times where he went out to the left wing versus West Ham and kind of just lost the ball, kind of looked a bit out of it, was dropping back somewhat deep, kind of playing Mourinho's kind of hold up play type of striker, whereas we want Harry Kane getting in the box, getting those shots off, being kind of the focal point of the attack, and it just seemed like kind of the balls were being more angled in towards like Dele Alli, or playing a lot along the wing with the likes of Aurier and Son to a lesser extent than Aurier. That may have just been tactics, but I think that to me it just didn't look like he was much involved. He did have 6 shots, which is kind of a testament to kind of how Harry Kane kind of functions. And if you do give him those chances, he will score. But obviously, a lot of them were low percentage chances to score. However, if he is getting that many shots and he didn't look great, we can only imagine what he is going to look like when he is playing well. And then he's just going to be obviously getting 6 shots and he's going to score probably all of them. Because Kane is obviously much like how most prolific strikers are in the world. He only needs 3 chances to get a hat trick, and when obviously he's playing at his top level, we know that he's definitely capable of doing that. He did pick up a yellow card in the West Ham game. Kane tends to do that every now and again when he gets frustrated, and you could see those games where you're like, oh, it's a great game on paper. Kane's going to do well, we're going to captain him, and then all of a sudden it's 75th minute, Kane's got a yellow and doesn't really get the ball. But that's kind of the way you play Kane. You either get him with the 1 point or you get him with the hat trick and 3 bonus. So it's kind of the play that you have to make. He isn't as explosive as Son. We saw that when Son got the ball and was able to get the space, he had a goal chalked off. He did end up getting an assist. Son just looked a lot more dangerous in terms of the way Mourinho's style of play is, because he kind of sits back, lets the enemy have the ball, has space in behind, which he uses the likes of Bergwijn, Aurier, and Son to obviously get in behind. And then Kane's kind of more of the enabler, and then Ali's making deeper runs from midfield. So I think Son may be a better asset. Potentially Aurier might be a better asset, but he's always got a red card in him. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on Kane. We're gonna kind of have to see how he plays out in the next game week or two. If he starts to show form where it's like the attack is focusing on him and he's getting the same amount of shots off as he did in the West Ham game versus slightly better opposition, then we can start to consider him to bring him in, because at 10.9 million, he's going to be just a slight upgrade over Jesus. He does have slightly better fixtures, however, Man City's obviously a better team, so we'll kind of have to see how that kind of plays out. And he could just be a differential option, which is not something you often say about Harry Kane. So the next player we have here is Adama Traore. Now he is basically the pinnacle of high impact players. Typically comes off the bench, or has been coming off the bench for most of the season for Wolves, but when he does get himself involved in the play, he is a very high impact player, typically swinging in crosses from the byline, or when he cuts in and makes those darting runs in towards the box and makes a low or just chipped cross into Raul Jimenez, which is obviously the ideal scenario for owners of Raul Jimenez. He is 5.8 million. He's very cheap, and he may well start against Bournemouth because of the prowess and the ability that he showed in their previous match. And if he does make some type of return, so whether he gets a goal, gets an assist, or something like that, the coach may be more inclined to play him in the next couple of games, which may secure his place and maybe get more returns for him. He doesn't take many shots, but he obviously does create a lot of key passes and is a very good crosser of the ball on his day. And that is probably more oriented towards a potential BPS merchant in a sense. So when he does get an assist, or maybe when he does get a key pass off, he will get those BPS kind of totals up. And then you may see games where Wolves get a clean sheet and he gets an assist and he's on 2 bonus, where somebody like Jota could get a goal and may only be on 1 or no bonus or something like that. Kind of how the way Salah kind of is up and down for Liverpool. Salah may score twice, but he's only on 1 bonus because he takes a lot of shots or loses the ball a lot. Whereas Traore typically doesn't do so and makes up for it if he does with the key passes. And his replacement would be Jota. So Jota would be the one that comes off, who only had 2 shots inside the first half, both of which were coming within 3 minutes of each other. And then the other person that would play on the opposite side would be Pedro Neto, who obviously only had 1 goal, which was a wonder strike at that. So 3 shots between them. Traore didn't have any. However, those shots were kind of, like I said, they were few and far between. They came in a small space of time, and Traore just looked better. He definitely passed the eye test for me, and I think he could be a very good asset going forward. Our penultimate player here is the Man City wonder kid in Phil Foden. Still a teenager at a super cheap price, 5.1 million, with such low ownership, playing in the midfield for Man City. It's crazy to think that he scored the highest points in Gameweek 31 plus with a total of 22, scoring 3 goals across the 2 games played, saw significant minutes in the latter game, and came on and made an impact in the first game. His fixtures also line up quite nicely. So what I think is going to happen with the likes of Foden, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, players like that can kind of play in the front 3 but also can play in the center of midfield, is they'll play one game, they'll start from the beginning, they'll play anywhere from 60 to 80 minutes, come off, and then they'll maybe play 30 minutes in the next game, and then so on and so forth. And I think Foden is definitely going to be much like that, because of the fact that he obviously has low minutes from the previous games played across the season. He's made 7 of his 15 appearances for Man City this season in the Premier League, with 10 minutes or less in those appearances. So when he does play, and plays for more than that amount of time, he does typically get involved and get on the score sheet. He's definitely going to get more of those minutes because of the fact that there's 5 subs as well. I think that he's going to be more involved, and with the fixtures lining up to where it's Chelsea and then the FA Cup game, then they play Liverpool, then they play Southampton, he'll probably miss the Chelsea and Liverpool game, play the FA Cup and the Southampton game, which is exactly what we want, because the Southampton fixture is a lot more favorable for him. Like I said, he can play anywhere across the front 3. He may be positioned in a false 9, much like how Raheem Sterling was implemented. We can also potentially see him play in the center of midfield alongside Kevin De Bruyne. He could also play out wide left as a potential future replacement for Leroy Sané, or even alleviate the likes of Riyad Mahrez and Raheem Sterling when coming off the bench when he doesn't start. And like I said, his low points per match are because it's 7 of his 15 appearances, so almost half are 10 minutes or less. But when he does play 20 minutes or more, he typically, like I said, gets involved, gets a return, and at 5.1 million for a City midfielder that just needs to come off the bench for a decent bit of time or start the game to get a return, it seems like a no-brainer going forward once City have played Chelsea and Liverpool. And lastly, we have Chelsea's pseudo-striker, I like to call him, in Marcos Alonso. He has ridiculous points per match. Across 11 appearances, he has managed to tally up 6.9 points per match. Now, like I said, that is obviously only over 11 appearances, as he was kind of out of favor and not being able to play as well in a back four system. However, with their good run of fixtures running up until the end of game week 36 plus, once they play City in this game week coming up on Thursday, being the day before at the time of recording, he can be a very good asset as he likes to get into the box and likes to get involved in the attack. He's typically on some form of set plays, whether it be corners or some type of angled free kicks, as he obviously has a great left foot and provides that option on free kick set plays, as he can kind of pair well with Willian, as Willian can obviously use his right foot to his advantage depending on the angle, and Alonso with his left foot. He had 3 shots in their game versus Aston Villa in their victory, and he was tied with Mateo Kovacic, who took 3 shots, as well as Christian Pulisic, who came on and took 3 shots as well, only to be surpassed by Willian himself with 4. They also had a great run of fixtures after the City game and will be all the way up until game week 36 plus, where then they obviously have 2 tough fixtures against Liverpool and against Wolves to end the season. And he is 1.3 million more than Serge Aurier. He is less owned, however, and I think with Chelsea potentially hitting stride and in a slightly better position to go for Champions League, they could be maybe getting Alonso more involved against the weaker teams and then play a more solid back 4 with kind of the congested midfield, or maybe a back 3 with wing backs, which still favors Alonso as well and gives him cover. And he could see a lot more play, especially with him having just constant threat going forward. I think they should potentially look towards more of a back 3 just to kind of solidify their kind of defense that they've been a little bit shaky on. Chelsea, they need those players back, and they need Tomori, I believe, who's injured at the moment, to come in and kind of bring a bit of pace around. Rudiger's obviously fantastic in the back line on his day, and the likes of Christensen will probably be alongside him to kind of combat that. I don't want to see Zuma in that defense, because that'll obviously be a clean sheet gone waiting to happen, basically. So I think Alonso could be quite good, especially when played in the wingback role, as we saw under his reign at Antonio Conte, where he was basically a must include alongside Andy Robertson and Benjamin Mendy, where we had the Ram backline for constant, basically all the game weeks effectively, because they were just that good and their points totals were just that ridiculous that you just spent that much money for your defenders. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a comment down below as to who you're keeping your eye on for the next coming game week and game weeks ahead of us. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new. It really helps out the channel. We're looking to grow it. We're looking to obviously get more people involved, as we wanted to make a FPL channel for you guys, for the players. And make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you know when our videos go live. We also post when the videos go live, as well as when we do our streams over on Twitter, PilotFlame226, and we stream over on Twitch, PilotFlame226 as well, where we do our game week discussions. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.